So OpenAI just dropped a whole bunch of major announcements, everything from a brand new model to some really big money deals. But what's the real story behind all the headlines? Well, that's what we're here to do, separate the hype from what's actually happening.
And this quote right here, it really just hits the nail on the head. Because while OpenAI is definitely making moves, the reaction from a lot of people has been, well, a little underwhelmed. So today, we're going to dig in and unpack exactly why that is. All right, let's start with the big product news. OpenAI has officially pulled back the curtain on its latest model, and they are definitely positioning it as a major leap forward in this whole AI race. And here it is, GPT-5.2. OpenAI is calling it their most advanced model yet, and it's designed specifically for the professional world. This is their new flagship, the one they hope becomes a part of our day-to-day work lives. So the big question is, what can this thing actually do? Well, OpenAI's engineers are calling GPT-5.2 a workhorse. It's supposed to be much better at handling those complex, multi-step tasks. It's got enhanced coding skills, it's sharper with spreadsheets and documents, and this is the crucial one. They're claiming it has far fewer hallucinations. That's a direct shot at making it more reliable for you and me to use at work. Okay, but here's where the story gets a little more complicated. See, these announcements, they didn't just happen out of nowhere. They're actually the very first results of this really high-pressure, internal push at the company. That's right. Internally, OpenAI declared what's known as a code red. Now, the company says this is just a normal part of its playbook, a way to focus resources. But a term like code red, that sets some very high expectations for whatever is coming next. And this comparison just lays out the disconnect perfectly. The market heard code red and expected a moonshot bet, a massive step change, maybe even a sneak peek at GPT-6. But what they got felt, to many, like an incremental tune-up. Yeah, it's a faster, smarter update for sure, but it wasn't the revolution that people were gearing up for. Now look, to be fair, OpenAI is claiming that GPT 5.2 still beats its main rival, Google's Gemini 3, on some really key benchmarks. But that's kind of missing the point, right? The perception in the market was that this code red was going to deliver a knockout punch, not just another win on points. People were just looking for something bigger. All right, let's switch gears and look at the other major announcements, the big money deals. We're going to see how that same theme of hype versus reality plays out here too. First up, the money. A new $1 billion equity investment. I mean, on its face, that is a massive number. It's a huge vote of confidence. But, and this is a huge but, let's put that number into perspective. $1 billion is, of course, a lot of money. But it's a drop in the bucket compared to the $1.4 trillion in compute commitments that CEO Sam Altman says OpenAI needs. Suddenly, that billion-dollar investment doesn't just look small. It feels like it's not even in the same ballpark as the company's real ambitions. The other huge deal was this partnership with Disney. This gives OpenAI's amazing text-to-video model, Sora, access to Disney's absolutely massive library of characters and IP. On the surface, that's a huge headline. But again, the devil is always in the details, isn't it? When you look closer at this 3-year deal, you see that the IP is only exclusive to OpenAI for the first year. After that, Disney could be totally free to make similar deals with competitors like Google. So that long-term competitive advantage, it's a lot less certain than it looks at first glance. So, if the new model is more of an increment, and the big deals all have these little asterisks next to them, what is actually going on here? Let's explore the underlying strategy that might just explain all of these moves. So, with all this context, what's the real long-term bet that Sam Altman and OpenAI are making? What's the actual play? The answer, according to Altman himself, is simple but profound. It's about owning more of the stack. It's not just about having the flashiest model. It's about controlling the entire pipeline that makes AI possible in the first place. And here's the game plan. The real moonshot isn't some new model. It's developing their own in-house AI chip. Why? Well, the goal is to fundamentally drive down the cost per token. You can think of a token as just a piece of a word. It's the basic unit of cost for running these models. So by controlling the hardware and crashing that cost, they can control the core infrastructure and ultimately the economics of the entire AI industry. That's the real prize. Okay, we've looked at the announcements, the market's reaction, and the real long-term strategy.
So let's pull all of this together for a final verdict. You know, it's worth remembering this is OpenAI's 10-year anniversary. They've gone from this scrappy little research lab to a global leader in an incredibly short amount of time. But when you're on top, that leadership comes with immense pressure to constantly deliver something revolutionary.
So let's boil it down. Here are the key takeaways. GPT 5.2 is a solid, valuable update for professional users, but it's not a revolution. The recent announcements feel incremental. Those headline-grabbing deals, they have some pretty significant caveats. And maybe most importantly, the company's true focus might not be just on the models, but on owning the very hardware that powers them.
Which leaves us with this one final thought. OpenAI is clearly playing the long game, focusing on that fundamental infrastructure. But in the hyper-competitive, crazy fast-moving world of AI, is steady, incremental progress actually enough to stay on top? Or is the market right to be demanding bigger, bolder leaps forward? That is the multi-trillion-dollar question.